You play such an influential role in the beginning of the core values and what we stand for and how we operate and the code we hold ourselves to. And
built some cool things in my day, built a couple 8-figure things.
As much as I was chasing product, my passion's people.
You have a culture inside your organization. I've done a lot of work with your whole team, so I see that. But it's the way that you guys interact with the marketplace that is completely different than everybody else out there.
What's up, guys? I'm TJ with the Barndo Show, and today is going to be a really special episode because I got one of my best friends and mentors here with me, Mr. Nick Alfano. What's up, Nick?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, for sure. I was excited when you told me you were in town, and it all lined up to get on here because, we literally built this whole thing in the time period I've known you. And, you played such an influential role in the beginning of, the core values and what we stand for and how we operate and the code we hold ourselves to. And, I talk about it a lot and, push it out to our audience. And, there's so many voices and so much noise. Sometimes you wonder, does it come across as genuine and authentic? And so I just kind of want to unpack that a little bit because, we started this thing and I've referenced it before where in the beginning it was like we're just starting a company, and then we built this thing up and finally hit a point where we're like, we operate from a point of integrity and, more importantly, truth.
Yeah, buddy. My favorite word.
So lean in, man. Tell us a little bit about you and, what you do and how all that connects. We'll do that.
Yeah.
On the road.
I'll just do like a 30,000 on my background, but so we've been hanging out for, it's been 2 years and change now. I think it was 2 years in December, right?
Yep.
December 3rd or something. But yeah, I built some cool things in my day, built a couple 8-figure things. I actually don't have like a sexy exit under my belt because I just walked away from both of them because they lacked integrity. Absolute, can I cuss on your podcast?
Yeah, man.
Absolute shithead. I gotta make sure I've been doing some ones with some religious cats, and they don't really appreciate the F-bomb. So we'll keep them to a minum. All that to say,
I want the full unfiltered content.
You want it all? I told you I'll come across this table real quick and we'll do some crazy shit. But yeah, serial entrepreneur for about 20 some years, and even went as far as to put myself through law school because I was, in an industry that was litigation heavy. I did debt collection. That was like where I made most of my money, and put myself through law school, did the debt collection thing, built and burned down several companies trying to figure it all out. And then one day I woke up and it was actually 5 years ago, back in December. So a little past 5 years. And I had like what I call my man in the mirror moment. And I just absolutely hated the dude looking across from me. And I just been on this crazy journey of truth. Got it tattooed inside my mouth and wrote this thing called the Truth Agreement, where I basically made an agreement with myself as an attorney at the time. It was a pretty cool contract that I'll never lie again. I'd love to tell you that I haven't lied in 5 years. I can tell you I haven't intentionally lied, but it's a lot harder than people think. So, I've just been trying to help dudes stop lying. And you're actually a product of the product because of all the guys that I've worked with in 5 years. You are definitely top 3, if not number 1, of the guys that have trusted the process and leaned in so hard that it's really cool to see where you guys are at 2 years later. And it's 100% a result of that one word, which is truth. So.
Yeah. Well, it boils down to I was at a point in my life where I spinning plates, had all these different things and had this cool idea and concept. And Ross and I had already met and had this thing kind of in an incubator phase. And buddy of mine hit me up, was like, you should go check out this business mastermind thing. And
Ooh, I hate that word.
And, so I'm rolling up into Nashville and I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. And I remember one of the first things you said was, don't worry about business plan. We're focusing on the business man.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy, here we go. And it was the foundation of everything because, there's a reason why I was stuck. There's a reason why I had only been able to get things so far. It's because I was not operating at my full capacity. So there's no way for me to pour into a business and take it anywhere, when my home life's in shambles or this is happening and all these different things, or if it's all about the money, bro, it just doesn't work. And some people find short-term success.
Sure.
But to build something that's long-term and built, like I say, with integrity, it takes that.
Well, that's the build and burn cycle, which I was stuck in as well, which a lot of guys are stuck in. So then you get this ego that you are the man because you built a couple cool things, but you'll self-sabotage every time until you do the real work, the deep work, what I call the subconscious work. And that's exactly where you were. Like you had 8 things. Like you were the guy, and I was the guy, so that's why it was fun to connect with you. Like if I was at a networking event and someone said, "What do you do?" It was like, what don't I do?
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, you know how many companies I got? Like, I remember our first meeting, you wanted to kill me for the first 90 days. I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking. The first 90 days that this dude worked with me, he mother effed me probably once a week. He would call me. And that's when I say, like, trust the process and lean in, because our first meeting, we went over all the sources of TJ's income, and we had 7 or 8 things on the board. Maybe it was 8.
Yep.
And we ranked them. And then what was interesting is Barndo was just an idea at the time, right? Just a concept. And I hadn't met Ross yet. And we were like, okay, these are the 8 ways that TJ brings money home to his army of children. But the question that isn't really what they bring in is like, which one like lights you up, and then which one has the most potential to make the biggest impact for your family and beyond. And after we did all the filtering, it came down to Barndo, and I was like, that's the one. He's like, bro, like, we don't even have a LLC. This thing ain't ready yet. You know what I mean? It's just we're kicking it around. My partner and I, who you haven't even met, I said, cool, burn everything to the ground. Burn every single thing on the top of this list down and go all in on that. And he was like,
I was crazy enough to do it.
But I remember you were like living off of your Amex, and you were calling me every week like, fuck that, my wife's going to kill me. This makes no effing sense. And I'm like, bro, you want to trust the process? You want to win, or you want to keep, you can go back to old TJ and spin plates, bro, and those are all ego. Those are all ego plays.
That's right.
And I was the guy. I did the same thing, man. I told you, I read that line by Warren Buffett, or heard the line or something, like the average millionaire has 7 sources of income or something. Yeah. And I was like, cool, I'm going to go open 7 LLCs.
That's right. That's the secret.
Man,
that's all we need.
Yeah. So.
No, for sure. Well, I mean, and I remember being in that space, and the crazy thing about it was, at that moment in time, even though I was leaning in and like I did the work and burned everything to the ground, and really when I did that, that's when Ross was like, "What are you doing? Yeah. Are you on a mission to destroy yourself?" And I'm like, "Nah, dude, this is the way." And it was a couple months later, Ross came in and
3 months
had same experience, kind of, was like, "Oh my gosh!" And so once we got in alignment, Katie barred the door. But I remember even in that moment, it was about what I could bring to the table and how it could benefit me. And it was all centered around a product. Like, there's a product, and I can take it to the market, and I can sell the product, and all this stuff. And like inside that first year working with you, like, as much as I was chasing product, my passion's people.
Yeah.
And so, I remember there was a point in time where like we hit this growth, and we were like pulling employees in left and right. And I made a post one night because I was just up thinking, because I don't ever sleep. And I was like, I don't build barns, I build people.
Yeah, buddy.
People build barns. And that was the capacity in which I thrive, is not only just being a visionary and having these like crazy ideas, and then having a business partner that's 100% a God thing, right? That Ross and I met, because he's 100% like just get it done.
Yeah.
But how that pulled me more into leading people and opening up doors, and I would have never been able to do it had I not like stopped and looked in and been like, whoa, that. So I remember the self-evaluation going, I'm not as cool as I thought I was.
Yeah, it's right there on paper, in my own words. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, what's interesting too is like, and if we speak about Ross, who's not here right now, I would argue that most entrepreneurs I meet are in that visionary role, and they end up either being solopreneurs or they build and burn, because if you don't have a true integrator, like if you don't have a Ross that can take the crazy shit that's in your head and make it a reality, then you typically you're causing friction within your organization. Like, I know you're on to the next idea before the first one was even finished coming out of your mouth. And if you don't have that buffer between you and the team, you're switching gears every 2 weeks, and nothing's really gaining traction or momentum to see it through. So, like you said, it was a godsend, because you and Ross together has been a really big reason why you guys have done what you've done in two short years.
1,000%. He is everything I'm not, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so, I get coined with being the face. Like, he always makes the joke, like when we go places, he's like, everybody's running up TJ, that's the Barndo dude, and his friend, like
his buddy.
and but the flip side of that is I look at it completely opposite, because I'm going, none of this would exist if I didn't have you. Like, I would have been like, yeah, we got this great idea, it's awesome, it's amazing, we got your money, everything's cool, blah, 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 blah. And then they'd be like, hey, dude, where's my house? I'm like, well, what house? So it's just, it was a perfect thing. But yeah, what's been really neat is being in the building space. We also are face to face with people who are making the biggest financial decision of their life. and they've got this insane dream, this idea, like our target market is country bougie, right? Like they're stuck in a subdivision somewhere and they're like, all I need is a piece of dirt. I'm going to build this barndominium, move my family out there. This is our thing.
Yeah.
And when they go all in on that, there's a huge risk. And there's things that, like, you say it all the time, new levels, new devils. And like, but even in their environment, right? They sold their house. They've pulled all the liquidity that they had. They've took on additional debt. They're living in a freaking camper out in the middle of the woods, and everything's stacked on us to deliver everything inside of their brain. And it's a disappointment's the gap between expectation and experience. But the better we, lay out expectations, and that comes with time, right? We were new, we were getting reps, and so like we get better and better. But the cool thing was, because I had spent and dedicated so much time to like my own battle and like how I process information and how I process feedback, and like I didn't have to get on an emotional level to deal with that.
No, but you could also walk them through that journey, because that journey is frightening. That journey is, hey, trust me, right? And you got the gift of gab, so people are going to follow you off a cliff. But to your point, that only takes them so far. You have to be able to walk them through that process of, do we go get an apartment for a couple months? Do we get the double wide and in the woods? Like, how do we get by? Because we are all in on TJ and Ross actually producing what they said they can produce.
Well, and the thing about it that a lot of people maybe don't know, because a lot of this stuff is transactional for people, like, and it's not relational. And me, I'm complete opposite of this. Like when there was a time where I sold every barn that came through our organization. Thank God I don't have to do that anymore, because I couldn't handle it all. But, our teams build these great relationships. And so, we tell everybody on the front, we base everything in our business off of that 80-20 principle, and we lean in, look, and I summarize it in front of clients like this: 80% of this journey you're going to love.
Yeah.
But 20% you're going to hate.
Yeah.
Something's going to go wrong. Something's not going to go. Like, so when it happens, let's stick that in our 20, you know what I mean? And so when we outline that, and then when we do encounter those things, like in the moment, it is high emotion, high energy, like their whole world's crumbling down. They're the one footing the bill, paying interest payments through the construction process. And like, sometimes it feels like, because we've been programmed that like nobody cares, that it's falling on a deaf ear. Cause we're trying to learn not only how to navigate and fix your problem, but how do we never encounter this again? Is it something that's a one-off, or is it something that we could have put up a guardrail to prevent? And so we process that, and like it's hard for me to separate it sometimes, because I take it personal. Yeah. And I'm like, man,
that's your gift and curse right there, though.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. 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 Because you want these people to win sometimes than they want to win themselves. And so the beauty of it, and the way it becomes relational instead of transactional, which is why most people are losing in that space, is when you genuinely are like, okay, I because you are an empath, meaning you can read everybody's emotions in this room right now, the people that can't even see on camera or off camera. So all that to say, like, when you can recognize the emotional roller coaster that they're on, and then can take ownership that perhaps something you did put them there, and then have those powerful conversations as they walk through that 20% of madness. Like that's the difference in the brand that you guys are building and have built thus far. You have a culture inside your organization. I've done a lot of work with your whole team, so I see that. But it's the way that you guys interact with the marketplace that is completely different than everybody else out there. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, I know it's going to continue to separate you guys.
Yeah. Well, there's no ego. Yeah. And so, and when there is, it's not to say we're perfect, but when there is, we check it.
Quick.
Yeah. And so everything that comes in is received. Some things are complaints, right? People are venting their frustration.
Sure.
And so like one of the hardest concepts when you do care and you build something like this, and you build it based off of like, it's going to be truth, it's going to be integrity, and we're going to do the right thing at all costs. We know there's going to be hurdles. We know there's going to be things that go wrong, and we plan for it.
Yeah.
But when we go in with that, there's a piece to where you have to process that feedback and go, all right, how did I drop the ball here? Yeah. Even if your initial thought is, I didn't do anything wrong.
Drop the ball. Yeah, exactly.
And so we do it, and we go like 7 layers of why, just working backwards. Well, maybe this particular thing that they're upset about isn't directly related to us, but why did that happen? And go back one level and go back one level. And when you do that, you'll figure out what really happened. And then the best part, and part that, it's a learning experience, is you don't have to go back and explain that to the client because they don't care how you arrived at that conclusion. They just want it to be fixed.
Solution. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a thing, and you get into a rapid growth environment where every day things change and, builds are coming in like crazy and we have this big vision and everything's moving. And there's a tendency some days to just lay down and die. Like you're like, what have we done? Yeah. And then, but
we've had those phone conversations where you're like, I don't know, but we've built a rocket ship here and I'm not sure that, I'm ready to tame it. So what do we do? We're going to, I can tell you this, and maybe some of you don't know, but at the beginning, because TJ does have the gift of gab, you were out selling more than you were able to produce because you can pretty much, if you talk to somebody, they're buying a Barndo. Right. Simple as. And so like, I remember having a phone conversation and I was like, yo, like, and you've heard my talk on this, but like suck, squeeze, bang, blow, which is always fun because it kind of gets people's attention. Those are the 4 components of an internal combustion engine, but what they really are is 4 components of a business. And you were sucking in and squeezing so much traffic, but Ross and the team in the back end round wasn't, and not that he wasn't capable, but the amount of production you were bringing through the front door wasn't being pushed out the back fast enough. And that'll murder your brand. That'll put your cash flow situation way upside down to where you're not able to even sustain growth. And so it was interesting phone calls along the way. And this is the fun part about, I think this is what we as entrepreneurs get addicted to, is this process of like, it's just like you said, what's the problem? 7 whys in, let's back it out. Let's process feedback, not from emotion, facts, not feelings. And then let's course correct. And you're doing that daily, and I think that's what people don't understand is it's, the optics are Barndo's crushing everything, but the reality is, they're doing well, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that like daily course corrections.
Well, there's a blessing and a curse inside of that too, because new consumers are like, these are the guys I want to build my home. But if you're a current client and you're experiencing an issue and you just see like win on Facebook and you're like, yeah, but my house is burned to the ground.
Sure.
It's
like, I knew it. It's just me, or I'm the problem, or every time I'm the 1 out of 100 that had an issue.
There's not a person that we've exchanged services with that their complaint fell on deaf ears. Now, sometimes it may feel that way, right? But as you expand, you get some of that, and that's just business. And that part you can't take personal because it's a transaction to some extent. I'm giving you money for a home, and there's expectations inside of that, and like you try your best to hit all of them, and you learn, hey, I didn't communicate very well, or this didn't, and for us, that's every day and every week we have these meetings with leadership, and all that stuff flows up. So every piece of our organization is meeting at the same day, same time, same place, EOS to the max.
Yeah, the structure you guys have is phenomenal.
And then it flows its way up. And so there's not a conversation that's had, whether in the field or some kind of feedback from a person on a phone, that doesn't make it to an ear that's got influence and decision-making capabilities to look at that and go, we could either improve the process or this is a one-off. And then sometimes, again, it's a complaint, not an objection.
Sure.
So, hey, I hate the way you do this. I'm sorry. And sometimes that's all it takes. Like, I'll give you an example. We get ourselves into like the craziest circumstances. Like
I've been on the other side of that phone call sometimes.
Well, and it's just because what we do is there's not a mainstream market of it. There's not really a playbook to look at. We can't go and say like, hey, how did you?
You're blazing a trail. You're pioneering right now.
Yeah, how did you build hundreds and hundreds of barndominiums on the most rural, remote places inside of your area, and deal with 336 municipalities and break down all those barriers? There's no one to go to. So we're doing it one step at a time, and we've learned some things we will say no to in the future, but we didn't say no now, and so we're going to bootstrap through this and get it done. But there was a situation where a client was like, I feel like you guys dropped the ball, and my production team, because again, you got emotion and you got like the logical,
facts and feelings.
Yeah. So like once it goes to production, like once the contract's signed and it goes into production mode, you're operating in the logical capacity. And most clients switch into the logical as well, but there's a tendency to run back to the emotional, because the emotional this is my dream, it's my vision, it's my everything, and all my money and all the things. And so this was a moment where client was dissatisfied because of the process, and it was a communication breakdown. That's all it was. We'd never done this particular thing before. It's a really unique project, and it's in probably one of the most restrictive municipalities in the state of South Carolina. And there's just things we learned. Like we went in, we're like, hey, this is what we're doing. They're like, we've never We've never permitted that kind of work before. So it was hurdle. And she was just, the homeowners were just upset. And I'm on this conference call. We're driving down the road and I got everybody in the car with me and we're like going in between offices and the homeowner's raging and everyone's like trying to give like a logical explanation of everything. And I said, hey, TV timeout. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it immediately just lifts the whole room.
Yeah,
because it's like, that's all I needed to hear. This is a complaint. I'm not objecting. I know you guys are working. I know you're doing everything you can. Just tell me you're sorry so that I can diffuse this emotional thing that I'm holding on to.
Well, let me ask you this, because this will be my a conversation we'll probably have in the near future, and you're probably having it internally with your team. Like you can't. What you guys are doing is you're saying you're delivering a product in the form of a Barndo, but you're delivering an experience, and I would akin it to and go as far as to say an intimate experience. Like this is next level stuff. Like to your point, like all their dreams are tied up in this thing, and you cannot automate intimacy.
Yep.
It's very difficult to scale intimacy.
Yep.
So like, what does it look like as you guys have moved on to low country and now you were just in my backyard looking at a Nashville location and you've got the Dunn one. So when TJ can't get on the horn while he's driving and give an actual legitimate, empathetic, heartfelt sorry, what does that look like? Is the team ready for this? Because to your point, the question becomes, can we scale and still let every single even complaint not fall on deaf ears? Can we still field those from a genuine place of we give a shit? You know
that's
I mean?
right. Yeah.
So,
well, that's the issue is when you have the deliverable, which is care, concern, empathy, but you got to be able to get it there. And so a lot of that in the beginning, it boiled back down to what I do, what Ross does, and then that was just 2 years ago. So it's 2 years ago, 300 Barndos ago. Sure. And so as we go down this road, it's like those are the holes that we identify. So, like even Jenna from the marketing thing, we brought in a marketing assistant because I was still handling the majority of our marketing stuff. And I'm trying to phase even out of that role so I can move more into visionary and address more of these things through scale, because every market opens up a whole new can of worms in and of itself, different client base, different backgrounds, different circumstances.
Well, real quick while you're on that, because I want whoever, I'm not sure who this is addressed to, who hears this. Hopefully it's entrepreneurs in general, but I want people to understand what my man is saying. Like it's building yourself out of a job. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs go wrong is they're so emotionally attached or their ego is attached to their business. They don't ever want to let things go. Like for you to let the marketing go, when I would argue that your zone of genius is again, people and connecting with people via your gift to gab and your marketing strategies and so on. So letting that off your plate, 90% of entrepreneurs couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because the story is I'm the best at it. Like even if I delegate it, I'm just going to hover over and micromanage and I'm going to have to punch it over the end zone, right, and do this myself. So I'm just not letting it go. And then that's the reason you're stuck. And so ever since I've worked with you, every conversation we had is, TJ, what are you doing to build yourself out of a job? TJ, why are you still doing marketing? TJ, did you dish this off? Because TJ, you have a zone of genius. And if you don't stay in that, you are not living all your hours to the service of Barndo.
Right.
How is TJ Norris and how is Ross, how are they the biggest asset to this company? Cool. How do we keep them in that pocket as much as possible?
That's right.
And it requires letting some shit go. And most male entrepreneurs, which is all I work with, they don't have it in them to let shit go. I struggle with that.
No, it's hard. It's hard. Well, the challenge was you got to.
Yeah.
So if you're going to grow at all and scale, you cannot do it all. Yeah. And so I kind of had that realization. And one of the things that opened me up tremendously to that was like hiring an executive assistant, like just offloading the simplest of tasks. And I'm like, man, that was.
So what stories did you have? Let's just sit in that for a second.
Yeah, who's going to, you mean you're going to read my emails and reply? You don't know what to say. You don't know how to do. You don't know.
You're not me.
Yeah.
You're going to be my voice.
Yeah.
Did you have a story? Cause I get this one a lot too, where you feel almost bougie or like, I remember when I first was working with an EA, you're kind of like, I don't want to even tell people I have one. That's like,
it's imposter syndrome though.
Yeah. Like who am I to have an EA?
Yeah. No. So that's a whole spiritual journey in and of itself. Is like you.
But these are the reasons why we do so much work on the business man, because I can give you the plan, and the plan might say hire an EA in 90 days, get them trained up. It might say get rid of marketing and build the team.
Yeah.
And the strategy is very sound, but you aren't actually ready to do the things I'm telling you to do, so we're wasting our time. And you're going to spend a year with another mastermind or another group who just develops a strategy, and they're going to lay it in front of you, and that strategy will get you to 8 figures and beyond. It's been proven. The guy who handed it to you likely did it himself.
Correct.
But you ain't ready. Yep. Like that's the vehicle, and you are not the driver that's even ready to make turn 2. And turn 2 might be get you an EA, get you an effective EA, and train that EA, and then get rid of the marketing department. You're not ready. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then
it's like Dan Martell always says, like 80% done is 100% awesome.
Yeah.
And so like moving into that, so the EA is what, it was the easiest thing.
By the way, executive assistant, for
Yeah.
if there's any like
Yeah.
super rookies listening.
Yeah, executive assistant. And so like, if you've ever dialogued with me, you know who Haley is.
Yeah.
She's the core of that communications for me. She runs my calendar, she runs my email, she runs everything on the back end. Like, that's just how I operate. And when I did that, it freed up so much mental capacity for me to think about bigger things.
Yeah.
So, you know, sales is where a lot of people flag me, like, because they're like, TJ could talk at close and do all the things. And like, I'm good at sales, but my passion was marketing. And so I was sitting in the head of sales, head of marketing. I'm the visionary of the company. You know, Ross is like head of production, head of finance.
Yeah, everyone's wearing 6 hats.
Yeah, you can't scale. So there was a moment in time where I had alleviated like administrative stuff from my schedule, and then I had a really great team of sales agents. And then Alicia, who's our director of sales, when I hired her, she was one of the top producing agents in the Charleston market with a huge brokerage down there. And I called her because I was resourcing and connected to her and was like, hey, do you know anybody that might, you know, want a job? And she was like, how about me? And I was thinking like, no, I don't, you know, like.
Because if I pull you from that and I can't give you the opportunity to match or exceed what you're doing.
But, you know, we had breakfast. Hannah and I were down there. We went out, had breakfast, and she was like, I'm in. And I'm like, oh, boy, you know, so let's go. And so she came in, and she's kind of in that new market. She was down there in the low country in our Somerville office, and, like, she was, you know, shake, rattling, rolling. And I remember having, like, these conversations in the beginning of, like, what do you love? What do you hate? She's like, look, I eat what I kill. Yeah. I like to hustle. I ain't a manager. I ain't ever want to do anything like that. Like, that's not my gift. And in my mind, I'm like, I think you're wrong.
Because you're 100% a leader.
You've been thrown to the wolves in a new market, new hurdles. Like, I didn't have to think about who set up the internet, who did this, how did this get wrote. And one thing that I'm not good at is giving instruction. Yeah. I give direction very well, but I don't give instruction. And so I used to like akin it to like when I would hire people, I'd say, look, I hired you to do sales here. You said it's basically like I said, I need a dancer. You're like, I dance. And I'm like, all right, dance. And you're like, I don't know the music. I don't know the moves. And I'm like, it's all right. Figure it out.
Yeah.
And then,
but real quick, I want to stay on that because I think it's an important thing not to gloss over, like instruction versus direction. We've polled to thousands of employees over time in the organizations that we work with and consult, and the word that comes up a lot that they feel they don't have enough of is autonomy. Yeah. Which is like the independence to make a decision whereby, and I know where you're going with this because we've had this conversation, is like, I'm paying for a result. Yeah. How you get there, like as long as you operate within my core values, honesty, integrity, et cetera, like I don't care how you got there. I want the result. And again, a lot of entrepreneurs, they want complete supreme control over every instruction, over step by step by step. And so I think that's a big reason why you guys have moved as fast as you've moved, is you've put people in place, given them the autonomy to make decisions to get to the end result. And then you just process how they got there, and you have feedback, my favorite F word. You just continue to have those feedback combos on how we can get better and course correct. And sometimes they just nail it round one, rare, right? But even if they nail it 80% and you just having quick conversations on course correcting, people thrive with that. And again, it's the ego and the control from the entrepreneur that doesn't allow them to do that, but also they fear that they're gonna shit the bed. Right. And then they got to go clean it all up. And then, why did I even hire them? I'm spending more time cleaning up after them or redoing their work. When in reality, like to your point, that's probably one of the most powerful things he said on this entire thing is direction over instruction. Yep. That's vital. So
no, it was. And what was really cool though is inside of that, I had a lot of people who came in and had instant success in closing deals, and they know the framework and the structure and how to, you know, bring people in, take them through that experience, get them to the destination.
Yeah.
And so, but one thing that Alicia was doing was documenting everything. So when the next person came on, you know, I'm like throwing them to the wolves and they're asking questions. I'm like, you don't need to know that. You got to get reps. This is how you learn. And then we'll deconstruct it. And Alicia was like, here's a PDF. Here's this. I created this. I did this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you are the manager. And so, you know, when I moved her into that role, it's not easy because there was a minute where I was like, we'll dual hat this thing. Yeah. And that lasted 2 weeks. And I was like, no, we're not. Because I like you shrink around me. And so like, you are the one. No more. I'm not involved in the sales meetings. I'm not involved in anything. I'll have one-on-one with you. You know where the direction in which I want to go. And it's up to you to create the results to get us there. And rally your team and do this and siphon and do all that. Like she'll call me all the time. And it's funny because people are just so used to that structure, right? Where they're like, let me check. Is it okay? And I'm like, just bring results.
Yep.
And we'll dissect it. If the results don't match the intent, we'll dissect it on the back end, make some changes, and move on. Just do. And she just executed. And when that moment happened for me, it was like this giant shift. And I can remember having me and Ross had coffee, or maybe we was eating lunch together or something. He was like, bro, what? He's like, you're a different person. And I'm like, dude, I don't have to think about any of the stuff that was clouding my brain up, because there was a moment in time where 10 hours a day I was dealing with transactions and sales and managing all this stuff. And it's hard to do that and grow a company. And so now I'm just in training people and recruiting people. I was going to say,
I think the biggest transition you've made, and again, for the entrepreneurs to listen, is you went from building everything yourself to building a team that builds everything.
That's right.
And when you became a professional builder of teams, and mainly culture, because it is one thing to give somebody free reign and say, I'm just looking for a result, but you have to have established a culture that allows them to not tiptoe into that and be timid and like, you know what I mean? Because again, I'm guilty of micromanaging still on certain things. And so I might cut them loose and say they have autonomy, but if I didn't actually create that environment for them to feel that way, you know, like, yeah, I cut them loose, but they know damn well I'm like looking at everything and I'm going to throw a fit. Like there's a complete difference in saying it and actually creating the environment for them to feel safe enough to take a step. And if they mess it up, that's okay. You know, right. Again, if you're inside of my core values and you're pushing for the result, get it done, and we'll process the data. We'll process the feedback. But yeah, it's very impressive. And I think that's a big transition most entrepreneurs need to figure out. And, you know, from writing scripts to building a team that writes the scripts, from building an SOP around how to build the barn to building a team that then creates the SOPs on how to soup to nut a barn.
That's right.
So,
well, I mean, look, I can only get us so far, and so I lean into my teams, and so they do this. And in the beginning, it was hard because you have clients who came into an experience one way, and then you make hierarchical changes in your company, and their tendency is, I need to talk to TJ, right? I'm gonna pick up the phone and call him. Now we don't have it because they don't engage with me on the front end. They know who I am. There was a guy walking through our office yesterday, one of our sales agents, looking at plans on the wall, and they're in like the design center, and he's like, that's the YouTube guy, you know? And so there is that aspect, and I still get to lean in and have fun with that and talk and stuff. But for the most part, they're building that with someone new, and they're able to have a much better experience because that one person's controlling this many people, you know, and everybody is operating in a capacity that they can sustain. Yeah. Because in the beginning, there was huge. It was insane. We just had so much market traction. We were like, let's build 10, and I sold 64.
I know.
In 90 days.
I remember telling you to slow down. You're like, I don't slow down. I'm crushing it, bro. I was like, all right, well, you're putting too much fuel on this thing, and the rocket ship's either going to take off or it's going to explode like the Challenger. Like it's not even going to barely get off the ground. It's going to boom because you're loading it with too much fuel. 64 sales to what's your output, player? Yeah, I mean, too much input, not enough output. We got a problem.
Well, and here's one thing that if you're a client, consumer, you're, you know, dating me online to see if you like this idea of working with the Barndo Co. It ain't all about me. I'm not the know-all, be-all, and Ross and I both subscribe to this, and that we have to get better. It's in our core values. B is to be the best at everything we do. That's first and foremost. But the A is always growing, and you'll never be the best if you ever get away from the fundamentals, and one of those for me is I've got to get better, because as this thing scales, this year, 2024's business is not 2023's business. So there's new obstacles, new things, and I'm always leaning in to, you know, Nick and different people in my space that are like giving me tools from a different perspective. And, you know, that's one thing that I like. There is no ego for me. It's you got the resource. I'm listening, brother. And like part of that is part of my personality too. Is you sat down and you're like, hey, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I'm like, all right, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah. You know, and in that framework, it just helps me succeed. And it collapses time for me.
That's a key phrase, collapsing time. People like, you can go out there and you might be able to get it done. It's very rare to get anything done solo, you know, because you're in your own way and you don't realize it because you don't know what you don't know. And until you learn to become the observer yourself, which is a lot of work that we've been working on, and you're definitely there, but a lot don't get there. Until you can become the observer of your own life and see how you're showing up in certain situations and how it's not serving you, the easiest thing you can do is hire an observer, you know, because you're in the business, right? So you're floating in the water ball and you just see the back of the label. Well, I get to come in from the outside and I get a completely different perspective, you know, like, for example, shout out to Chris Breen. When Chris Breen came in and showed you guys EOS, the structure of Barndo like completely changed. And without that structure, it's not even an argument. It's a fact that you guys wouldn't be where you're at today.
No, for sure. Well,
it took you reaching out and saying, I need someone to bring structure into this thing.
Yeah. Well, it was an idea, and it was a small business, but to become an enterprise,
an actual,
like it was a tool we needed. And we taught. He was local. You're like, y'all need to make this connection. Hands down. It was a game changer for us. And inside of that, we didn't just talk about like the strategies of where people sit in the company. It started with, what do you want?
Which is the hardest question
on
planet Earth for any man to answer, anybody to answer. Yeah.
Yeah, and the core values were born, and we've lived inside of that ever since. And there's nothing we do, from hiring an employee, coaching an employee, firing an employee, designing a plan, starting a build, walking through a pre-construction meeting, doing the keys meeting, without that core value being front of mind. Yeah. It's who we are.
Well, every time I've come out and done a quarterly, or we just did your annual recently, the team is always growing. There's always more and more people in that room when I'm talking to them, I've never even been there for half a day and not heard you and the whole team fire back the core values.
Yeah.
So to say you're living it and you got a cute little plaque that's hung up on the door when they walk in or in the break room is one thing, but you guys have like beat this into them from a place of they do. Every single thing goes through the filter of core values first.
That's
and
right.
then we get to work. Because if it's not in alignment with our assignment, it's got to go.
100%.
So, yeah, I love that.
Well, and the cool thing about doing all that front-end work, so like some of the expansion that we're doing now is, we got contractors leaning in going, how are you doing that part?
Yeah.
And they're like, we build great homes, we got this, but like, how are you doing that part? And so we're building kind of this collective of like, this guy's got a really rock-solid core. He fits culture. He knows what he's doing in an operational capacity, but he's just missing that one key piece. And a lot of times it is a bigger blanket of culture, like having a bigger team that can come in, because the team will stand you on your head because you're capable of so much more. You are your own limiting factor all the time. Yeah. And so when I engage with those guys, and like we've got a couple of those happening right now, to where rock solid dudes crushing it, and they hit this wall. And, part of our expansion plan is to come in and like make them part of the team, and we roll this thing out, and then instantly it frees them up to be more of what they're really good at.
Yeah,
and then
step into their zone of genius and actually be an asset for the company. If you're going to be there 8 hours or 10 hours or, some days 12 hours, again, how is that 12 hours spent where it serves you, fills your cup, but then serves Barndo and it is in line? So let me ask you this, because you do have people beating down your door now. You guys have got some like absolute killers in the marketplace saying, hey, I want to be a part of this movement, this culture. What are you guys doing? I'm seeing the rapid growth. More importantly, I'm seeing the culture. I'm seeing how your people are showing up for you and how they're loving the work environment. What is the very first thing you either ask yourself or you filter when you're looking for like a new hire? No matter where in the organization, even high up, if someone comes to you and he's already got a sick resume, what is the first thing that you look at before you even entertain an interview with him or her?
One is, what's your why? And so when we do, so we have a funnel, and so when they come in, it's a core values funnel, and it used to be that funnel was they had to meet with me, and I'm really good at a read on people, but again, that's not a scalable process. Nope. So it gets to that point, but so now we throw such a wide net that they come in, they go through a list of questions and prompts and things
around the core values. I guess that's what I want to hear, because that's crucial. Because there's people out there that are hiring, and I was guilty of this. We need we need to ramp up our sales. Find me a killer. Yeah. And dude or girl might have the craziest resume and they can close top down, but they don't fit your core values.
So we've done it. So and here's the thing is, I bought into this before everyone else bought into this, because you got different stress around needing a body. Production is, I can't do anything without someone. Yeah. And so there's a tendency to rush sometimes and run way ahead of yourself, and then you're in there and you hired the wrong one. And so the way I bring this to my team's attention and say, look, it's like a splinter in your thumb. If you come into this, and everyone who's hired, they sign a 90-day probationary period, right? It's like we're dating. If you like me and I like you, we'll make this thing full term. But there's a 90-day period of time here where your expectation is this has got to be a fit. And we drive core values so hard. And the R in Barndo is really love what you do. And I tell them, this is our thermostat. We know if this is a JOB, you won't work here. Yeah. Okay. It can't be that for you. It can't be a thing like, got to go do my job. Yeah. It's got to be, I can't wait to get there because this is what I love. I love helping people. I love doing this, and I'm all in on everything. And I tell them, you can fake it today, and you may be good enough to fool me. You may be good enough to fool whoever your hiring supervisor is. But within that 90 days, you will fester up, and we will pluck you. And it won't be me that plucks you. It'll be the people that work around you, because they're in this culture, and they guard it like watchdogs. Yeah. You're not going to come here and fake it. You cannot fake you can fake your way in.
Sure.
but you will not stick around.
I think we've all been guilty of that on both sides of the table. We've either like not faked our way in, but you show up as your best self during these quote unquote job interviews, and then again, sometimes even though you're highly qualified to filter people get past you. They get past.
For sure.
They get past the gate, and then maybe they make it a week or two. But there's no way, and I like the 90-day rule. There's no way authenticity or your true self is going to show itself in 90 days, and you're either a good fit or, like you said, the thumb will push that splinter out.
And sometimes it's the flip. Like you meet somebody and they're absolutely the right person.
Yeah.
There's just not a seat for them.
Yeah.
So you got to have that conversation. Like I've been guilty of that. Hire people who like, I love him, love her. I could, hang out, have dinner.
Sure.
You can't work here. There's nowhere for you to operate. And so it's both sides. Some of it you're filtering in like, they got all the skills. Are they the right person? But you also have the inverse of that, which is like, this is definitely the right person, but they don't got the skill. And
so some people would shoehorn them in somewhere in their organization because they just love them as a person.
Yeah.
And you quickly learn too that's not an option, because then you got the wrong people in the wrong seats, or maybe it's the right person, right? But they're in the wrong seat. And if there's nowhere for them, you hear people say abundance versus scarcity. Do you actually have an abundant mindset to know that, like, I love you as a human, but there's no room on this boat called Barndo for you to pick up an oar and start rowing. So you got to be going.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you have that in you? Because it's like as an empath, as an emotional being, right? Like it's hard to just tell somebody like, you are awesome, I'll have dinner with you 7 days a week, but you can't hang out here. You're not an asset for this company. See ya.
But there's so much freedom in it too.
Yeah.
Because here's the other side of it is if they're not a fit, what do? They require attention.
Yeah.
And if they're taking attention, they're sucking energy. And if they're sucking energy, then we're slowing down and we're not fulfilling and we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And then now someone else is only doing 50% of their job because they're having to do 50% of this job. Sure. And it's just the long-term effects are so bad that I would rather have the uncomfortable conversation.
Yep. But again, it takes growth to get there, to have that uncomfortable conversation. There's a lot of people out there that have kept people in the organization for years because they don't have the capacity, what I call capacity for collision. Because that's a collision. If you don't have the capacity to collide with someone on your team that is either in the wrong seat or just doesn't belong on the boat, like to your point, how long are you going to let production suffer, culture suffer? They could become an actual cancer to the movement. So it's crazy, man. There's so many reasons why the businessman is in his own way, and they don't know it. They don't see it most of the time.
Right.
And then again, most of them don't want to own it. Like one of the hardest things we do with the program is you actually have to point out to a grown man that he's got issues. Like your business doesn't have problems. Your business has you and your problems.
That's right.
The end. And then so to shake a guy up and say, hey, dude, like you got some issues you got to resolve or you will not see the next level, just that alone is tough. 'Cause he's like, oh, F you, man. I'm the man. I built this thing. I got this thing. Like, what don't I do? And then getting him to own that and break their walls down and then let you in, shit.
Yeah.
That's why, we've been around 2.5 years and we just ran our first ad. What's today? 24th, 25th? Like 10 days ago. January 15th, we ran our very first ad of all time. And even like trying to get our message out to the marketplace has been rough because it's really difficult to talk about what we do because we do want to keep some of it close to the chest. But again, we're literally just showing up online like, hey, dude, you're not getting to the next level because you fucked up.
Yeah.
What? I ain't fucked up. Okay, well.
You are what's
do me a favor. This is what I want to do for my next ad. Do me a favor. As you listen to this and you're triggered and you're telling me how awesome you are and this is all bullshit and it's woo-woo and personal development is a joke, just do me one solid. Go on your phone right now and leave a message to yourself 6 months from now, 3 months from now. Do it a year. I don't care. And then just brutally honest with yourself. Did you move the needle across faith, family, fitness, and finance? Those are the 4 dimensions, right? Domains that make up a full and complete man. Not a fucking finance killer who doesn't hang out with his wife, date his wife, show up to the kid's game without the phone, etc. All that to say, if you haven't moved the needle in 6 months from hearing this fucking message, just do me one favor. Just shoot me a call. Because I'm telling you right now, it's about a 99% chance you didn't. And 2 things are going to happen in 6 months when this alarm goes off. You're not going to have the balls to call me, or you're going to bullshit and lie to yourself that you actually are moving the needle. And then 6 years are going to go by, and then you're going to get hit over the head and say, shit, I haven't moved the needle.
Right.
I might need to do something different. So it's a hard message to put out there because you're basically just smacking dudes upside the head saying, hey, you're this version of you is not it. You're not the man. Right. You were the man to get this far, but what got you here will not get you there.
Oh, that was it. That was that was the soul snatcher for me. No, that was it. It was the what got you here won't get you there. And I remember hearing it going, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But no, here's what I would say is if you're a man in business, right, with a family, you fit the bill to connect with you. How do they connect with you?
Well, we got ads now, I guess. So that's cool. No, I don't even know what's
you
going on.
Look us up in the phone book.
Yeah. Reprogram.ai is obviously like where everyone lands. We are running an event March 1st and 2nd, so I don't know when this will air. But if they can get out to Vegas, we got a pretty cool thing going out there. They're very small, intimate events. Like that you've been to some. We've elevated a little bit. The last couple events were 30. This will be a 60-person event. It's actually at Bradley's compound, Lightspeed, out in Vegas. So it's like 60 plush recliners in a really crazy, like high-end studio, similar to what we're sitting in now. So coming to an event is the best way to experience us and kind of see if you're a good fit. But obviously, you could just jump on a call. Like when I'm on a podcast with someone I care about, I'll usually drop my calendar link, even though I'm crazy busy. But for people listening to this, if you know this man and you're listening, timewithnick.net, that's how you get on my calendar. And we could just have a quick convo. So just book a 30-minute, like I think it's a discovery call or something. But sometimes it's just a conversation, man. You'll know. First of all, I don't sell shit. You know that. Like when you came to the event, remember, I think, so it was a 2.5 day event TJ came to. And within the first hour, I dropped the entire ticket to work with me for a year. Yep. And it took the air out of the room. Yep. And I'm like, yo, just there it is behind me, behind my head. And here you go. There's a bathroom break. So if that scares the shit out of you or triggers you or whatever you're processing viscerally, like some people it punch them in the gut, that's what it looks like to work with me for a year. Get that shit out of your system now so you could be present. Because if I wait till the end to tell you how this all works, you're not fully present from my experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're just waiting for the other shoe to drop the whole time. And I remember I was speaking with one of my mentors, and yes, I have mentors. Yes, TJ has mentors. Like, for those of you who think you don't need somebody above you that's crushing things that can help you collapse time or sidestep landmines, good luck. But I told my mentor, I was like, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to drop the price as soon as they walk through the door. And if they fucking run, they run. Let them run. It's not for them. And it was crazy is, like, you sat through it. Everyone that I don't think one person left. I don't know. I think in our 11 or 12 events that we've done that, I don't think we've had people leave because they say I cuss too much.
Yeah.
I was running a couple events in Utah with my LDS guys, and they're like, you said the F word too much. My ears are bleeding. I had a guy actually say that. So, but no one's ever left because of the price point. But I don't even know where I'm fucking going with this. But if you want to hang out, hang out.
It's you, not them, right? But no, for sure. Well, I was just going to say, like, if you're listening to this, we got a lot of people that are wanting to build Barndos listening, but everybody's in different walks of life. It'd be worth your time and money to connect with this guy, and it doesn't cost anything to connect, So connect, figure that out. Like it changed my life and put us on a trajectory for success. And again, the purpose of this, if you're a consumer listening, is like, we're not just out here doing this on our own. And I'm not just out here telling you one thing and operating in a different capacity. I got people in my life that hold me accountable.
Fiercely accountable.
That hold us accountable to toeing the line and doing what we say we'd do. But other than that, man, I'm just glad you came and hung out with us.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me out. So
Yeah.
a 6-hour drive. By the way, 6-hour drive from Nashville in crazy rain. And so my man checked on me at like 8 o'clock. He's like, hey, are you here? Are you safe? I know it's nasty out there. I was like, I still got 4 hours left. So my man sat on the phone with me for 4 hours, and we chopped it up just to make sure I didn't like run off the road. So that's the kind of.
And I walked laps in my driveway.
And he just kept walking. I was like, well, if we're gonna be on the phone, you better get them steps in. I mean, so last night was fun because it was 4 hours of, we call it a walk and talk. So I was driving, but he was walking and talking, and I'm just saying that's the kind of dude you got right here, because he didn't have to do that. Like I'm a 9:30 lights out guy. We're both up at 4:35 a.m. So to stay on the phone till midnight just to hear a voice and make that trip semi. Yeah, doable. That was a rough drive. So appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Barndo Show podcast. If you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this content, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And then be sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms at the Barndo Co. Super simple to find us. And then when you're ready to dive in a little more, maybe look around some of our available floor plan options, or take a look at the gallery of our work, or maybe you're ready to connect with our team and explore what it looks like to build your dream barndominium, you can visit us online at thebarndoco.com.